If your database is going to be worked on by multiple users, you must consider splitting the database. In a multi-user environment, it is not good practice to have one database file and everybody opening at any point in time more than one instance of that database. If you're going to have a number of people working on the database, you really do need to split the database from being a single database file into two files. One file becomes the front end, which contains all the objects except the tables, and the other file becomes the back end, which contains only the tables. The back end has only the tables, which means the back end holds the data, and that is placed in a central place on the server that everybody has access to. And then the front end is simply given to each and every user a copy of the front end file. It means that each user works with the front end, which is naturally linked to the back end, but there's only one instance of the back end and there can be multiple instances of the front end. It also means if there's a need to make a change, perhaps the client needs a new report, then the people can still keep working on the database, and when I finish with my copy of the front end, I'll simply replace their copy of the front end, and there's no disruption to the workflow. The most important file of the two is the back end because it has all the data. So when you reach a point where you're happy that your database works, you may want to split it. To split your database, you really want to go to Database Tools and hit the Access Database button. When I click this database button, it brings up the database splitter, and you may take a moment to read that, and I'll split the database. What it's going to do is create a Donations Stage 3 backend file, and I'll put it on the desktop with my shortcut and with my front end, and I'll split. Eventually it will say the database was successfully split, and I'll go OK. Now when I look at my navigation pane, suddenly my tables look a little bit different with a little blue arrow, and also when I rest on any given table, it actually tells me where that table is coming from. So before you had one database and the tables were in that database. Now you have two databases. You're looking at the front end right now, but the tables are actually coming from a second database which is called backend, and the front end is linked to those backends. In fact, if I was to go to database to external data and to link table manager, I can see exactly what tables are linked into this database and where they're originating from, and all the tables are originating from the back end. This is also where you'd go if you wanted to prompt for a new location if you'd moved the back end. If I was to open up the back end file, I'll just go File and Open. Here I can see the back end simply contains tables. If I was then to open up the front end, this contains all the objects. I'll just press Ctrl F1, all of the objects and a link to the tables. There are times also when you want to link to things other than tables. You can in fact link to quite a variety of objects, as you can see up here in the important link group. And so what I might like to do is link to a certain spreadsheet. If I click the Excel button, I can then browse for an Excel file. So I might just browse off for a file called Country List. So excuse me for a second. And I'll ask it to show me all Excel files. Oh, excuse me a minute. Here it is here, Country List. So I'm going to choose this file, Country List. Now I don't want to import it as we have done previously. I want to link to it. And when I click OK, it does ask me a question. Does the first row contain column headings? It does, because the first row contains the column heading country. So I'm just going to tick this option and go next. And I can just leave it with, well, I'll actually type link to countries and finish. You can name it anything you want. and I'll go OK, and there I have it there. Not only do I now link to tables in another database, I now link to a spreadsheet as well. And if I double click that, I can actually see what's in that spreadsheet. So not everybody has access, and yet I need to bring the information into Access, and rather than import it on a regular basis, I'll simply link to any spreadsheets out there that I want to be able to work with that data in Access. And so we've looked at linking to Access, linking to Excel. You can manage your links with the table manager, and in fact you can link to a lot more objects than just Excel and Access. They're just the common ones.